Hi everyone, it's 1 o'clock or just past 1 o'clock and just getting ready for today's live stream. What you need to have: happier, healthier outlook on all your relationships. And I'm just going to let you know right now that I'm joined here by Mr. Wilson who has decided that he wants to come and sit in with me this afternoon. So you may hear him pipe up, you may not. He's decided that it's too cold and wet outside and he wants to come and sit in with me. So let me just check that we are online. I'm just going to go and check that it's showing up in my Facebook page. So you should be over here joining me on Susan Francis Coaching over on Facebook, and let me just check that I'm live here now. Yep, it looks like I am. Great, so this is all good. Mr. Wilson settled down, he's curled up on my desk, getting ready to listen in as well. So yep, we're up live on the Facebook page. So this is part 4 of my 7-part series, Live Life in Tune with Who You Want to Be. And during this live stream series, you've been discovering how to turn difficult relationships into the best thing that ever happened. And today I'm going to be talking about what you need to have happier, healthier outlook on all your relationships. But first of all, a little bit of an introduction to me. So I'm Susan Francis. I'm a family dynamics and relationship coach. And I work with high-performing professional women who are experiencing difficult relationship dynamics, whether that's with family, friends, a partner or their children, and it's impacting their business, their dreams and their goals. To give you an idea of the range of results that I get from my clients, I've recently been working with a lady who is running a business and her family thought that her business wasn't worthy. She was living in the shadow of her family's ideals and their judgment, and she shrunk to fit those ideals. That meant that she lost faith in herself, lost faith in her business, and she totally burnt out. She now has, since working together, she now has a total trust in herself and what she's doing within her business, and a total belief in herself. And because of that, the knock-on effect has been that the work that she's doing, she's getting more clients, and her income has more than tripled. And she's living a happier, healthier lifestyle, and has managed to deal with some of the issues that she had with the relationships with her family. As another example as well, I've been working with somebody who has a successful business, but through the journey of creating that business, she's evolved into a different woman. And that's affected the relationship dynamic with her and her husband. Through working together, she left her husband and managed to move through the divorce unscathed. And she's now in a relationship with somebody who is her equal. And she's living life in tune with who she wants to be. And when I spoke to her recently, she said it was the best thing that ever happened to her. And that really struck me as something that I wanted to bring into this live stream series to help you to discover how you can turn your difficult relationships into the best thing that's ever happened. So please do put some comment if if you want to on anything that I'm saying. Share this live stream, tag yourself and others, and don't forget to subscribe to notifications on my page, and that will let you know when I'm going live. So let's have a look. So today, yes, I'm going to be talking about what you need to have a happier, healthier outlook on all of your relationships. And through this, what I'm going to do is give you a bit of an understanding of the basic human needs and recognising when your dark side is coming out to play. Now, let's be honest, every one of us has a bit of a dark side. Every one of us has an irrational or emotional and destructive side to our personalities, and when we're having issues within our relationships, that's when it tends to pop up and come out to play. We can all have those moments when we're being immature and we kind of go back to kind of some of the childish patterns that we've had from our childhood, that we set up with ways of dealing with things, and we can all be a bit selfish and controlling and looking to seek power in relationships at times. And I know that's not nice to hear about yourself, and it can be really easy to go into denial and play it down, come up with excuses, well, I did this because they did that, etc. But these feelings mainly pop up, the part that I call the dark side is the part of you that pops up when you're feeling hurt, frustrated, irritated, disenchanted, and when you're not getting your basic needs met. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just about recognising when that, when that pops up. And one of the things I want to do today is talk about sort of how you can help to recognise that. But let's have a look at how that might be impacting you. So we all have a set of basic human needs. When they're not met, we create a set of patterns that enable them to be met, even if these, sometimes these can be positive patterns that help us to get those needs met. And other times they can be negative or quite destructive. So first of all, I want to talk through the individual basic human needs. And these have come from a piece of research that was done by Chloe Madnez, who is a fantastic relationship coach that I've, been pleased to have been sort of in touch with and following her work. So let's have a look. So the first one is certainty and comfort. So we all have a need to get to have a certainty and a sense of comfort in our lives, whether that be by the certainty of having a roof over our head, knowing where the next meal's coming from, knowing, just kind of knowing who we are in the world and getting comfort and having our basic needs for comfort being met. Now, sometimes that can be, so, you can have somebody that needs to gain that comfort and that certainty because they need to go out and they have a need to go out and earn a lot of money so that they know that they've got money in the bank that they can pay their bills. And for somebody else, that may be just by being quite happy or being certain that they're living life out in one room and, have just a certain amount that meets their basic needs. But we all have a need to have some sense of certainty in our lives. The next human need is uncertainty and variety. So, if life and every day was exactly the same and we all knew exactly where we were, then we'd get a bit bored. So a lot of times we can create situations that throw a bit of variety. We need a bit of variety in our lives. And sometimes even within negative situations, actually what we're actually doing is throwing a bit of variety in, with what's going on in life. The next need is significance, and we all need to feel a basic level of feeling significant to the people that we care about, the people that are around us, whether that's within, our job, with our friends, with our family. We all have a need to feel significant in some way. And a lot of times when people's buttons are pushed, it's because they feel that that in certain situations they're not being listened to and they're not, their voice isn't significant in that moment, and they're not feeling that that they're being heard or taken notice of. Where are we? The next one is love and connection. We all have a basic need to feel love, and a lot of people end up going for connection rather than love because it's safer and easier to go for connection. But we all have that basic need to feel loved and connected to other people. It is, as humans, as people, as beings, relationships underpin underpin everything about who we are, and that's about being in connection with other people and feeling loved. The next human need takes us out of the basic human needs and into spiritual needs, and that is our need for growth. So that's within, always needing to develop ourselves. If we stop growing, like anything, if we stop growing, we die. And so we all have a need for growth and for applying ourselves to new things, learning new things, and always of becoming and striving to become something better. Our next one and the last one is about need for contribution, about giving back to society, helping others. So when we look at those, we've got certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, connection, growth and contribution. And all of those are within, everything that we do, any behaviour, positive or negative, looks to get those needs met. And when we get more than one of those needs met, that behaviour can become addictive, especially if it meets sort of at least three of those. They can conflict with each other as well. So, for example, somebody with a need for certainty and comfort, but also with a big need for variety, can often be kind of have an inner conflict with getting those needs met, because whenever they need a bit of uncertainty and variety, it has an effect on the fact that they feel certainty and security. often we can have somebody that has a big need for helping others can then overdo that and take away from their own feeling of significance, because they're always doing things for everybody else, and they start to feel insignificant for themselves, insignificant, and that other people aren't taking their needs and making them feel wanted or needed or doing things for them, because they're always giving instead of actually taking back, and feeling significant, helping their feelings of significance. Sometimes you'll have somebody, a prime example might be, and this is to take it sort of really down to basics, might be, supposing you have, the scenario where you have like parents and teenage children. Very often you'll have situations where the child is not sticking to the rules, maybe coming in late all the time and not doing as they're told. And for each of those, for both people in that, for the parent and for the child, within that situation, there's a lot of those basic needs being met. So, for example, if whenever the teenager is coming in late and they're getting in trouble for the parent, it's affecting their feeling of certainty of knowing their child is safe. It's affecting their the feeling of love and connection of need. It's their need to make sure that their child is safe and knowing where they are, and also they could be feeling insignificance. They're feeling like the teenager's not taking any notice of anything that they say. But it also adds a bit of uncertainty and variety into their lives, because they don't know what's going to happen, they don't know what's going on. So all of those needs are being met within that one space. And for the teenager, again, they're feeling a certainty that their parent cares about them, because they're wanting to know where they are and they're getting into trouble. They've again thrown in some uncertainty and some variety, because in that situation, they don't know exactly what's going to happen. It makes them feel significant, because it shows them, significance and love and connection are wrapped up in there together, because it shows them that the parent cares about them. So those kind of behaviours can start to sort of continually play out through getting basic human needs met. And as I said, any positive or negative behaviour that gets those needs met can become addictive, which is why you find that they start to repeat patterns. Within our relationships, we unconsciously set up those patterns of behaviour to keep those needs being met, and those relationships can feel off when we feel that our needs aren't being met, which is why you can find that within any sort of kind of situation in a relationship where there are issues between two people, each one of them will be having some of their needs that are not being met at any one time. And what we do is we invent our own theories around those situations, and we invent our own little stories around them to maintain the behaviour, which what happens is we start to believe those stories, we start to believe those theories, and we then find it difficult to let go of them, even when we realise that maybe they're not true, or that they're not helping the situation. We can come up with what we think. We invent our own story behind why somebody's doing something or why somebody's not doing something. And we perpetuate that story, even when it's not helping the situation. And what this does is it starts to gradually sabotage the different relationships by believing in the stories that we tell ourselves and not looking to seek the truth of the situation. It can really sabotage the relationships. And of course, what that does is it also triggers the dark side that we have, where we start to maybe behave in those selfish ways or destructive ways in order to get those needs met. And it's about really looking and spotting when those come up, so that you can start to deal with them. And I'm going to give you some ways at the end, some little tips onto how you can do that. But what really happens in those situations is it brings back out the victim mentality. And I know I've spoken about this in previous live streams in this series, but that victim mentality can come out and take you away from the core of who you really are and the loving being that you really are, and take you away from the core of the situation and what it is that you really need from those situations, because we start going into this perpetual victim mentality. And when we can't start to kind of butt heads with people, basically what we're doing there is we're racing to be the biggest victim in any situation. So each person in that situation at the time is looking, well, I'm hurting more, or you've upset me more than I've upset you, and it's kind of, you're racing to be who's the biggest victim. And when you kind of stay in that spiral of in that situation of playing out the victim and coming up with theories to prove yourself right, and it just keeps perpetuating. And what we don't realise sometimes is that through this through this negative attitude, we unconsciously bring about everything that you don't want, and the situations perpetuate themselves because we're drawing in, what we're focusing on is the stories that we've created and the victim mentality that we have behind it. And we unconsciously start to draw in more and more of those situations to give us more and more evidence as to why we are the biggest victim in the situation. And it then allows this side to kind of take control and be in the driving seat, and that can become, when we allow that part of us to be in the driving seat, then it can be really destructive to your relationships, often chipping away at them as, like a slow burn, where we're constantly coming up with more evidence to prove what we think the situation, what we think's going on. And we start to go into what's known as like a figure of eight pattern, where you can go from feeling frustrated on one side, and any way that you're feeling, you can't maintain it for very long. So what happens is, when you're feeling frustrated, you'll sit in frustration for a little while, and then all of a sudden you'll cycle around into being angry, and then you can only stay angry for so long, so then you go back to feeling frustrated, and it goes backwards, round and round in like a figure of eight. And to come out of that, you can either go down, which may take you down into depression, or worse, or you come up. And the way to come up is by recognizing what's going on, seeing what pattern and what figure of eight that you're going through, and looking at ways to come up and out of that. So when you're able to see those patterns that you've created and get your needs met, you can change the way that you approach situations. You can free yourself up from the victim mentality and start to look at different ways of being and showing up in any situations that you've got with in the relationships, like with family or friends or your partners, by creating new conscious and positive behaviour patterns instead. So you can kind of break that cycle by looking, and the way to break the cycle and start to come up out of it by looking at the human needs and what's going on for both of you in that situation. And that can enable you to have like a kinder and more gentler, understanding approach for all of the people involved, because you start to not only see your needs and see the patterns that you're creating, but having a look at and trying to see where their needs might be needing to be met, because whatever situation you're in and wherever you're needing your needs met to be, wherever you're wanting your needs to be met, so is the other person. It's always there's always a mirror going on. It's not all just one-sided. So that way you can start to see past other people's behaviour and start to see past your own behaviour into the loving core of who they are and what they need, as well as into your own loving core of who you are and what you need. And that can help you to recognise the conflicts that can occur and when your needs are conflicting with one another. So, for example, that need for certainty against the need for variety. So if you've got conflict going on with somebody, it could be that they have a need to feel significant in that moment, and yet you have a need to have some variety, or you need to have a need for a need for growth. So going back to the example of a client that I was working with earlier, and where she felt that her family weren't really they were judging her on her business. She had a need for growth there, whereas they kind of had a need for certainty with what was going on and need to know that, that things were safe and secure. And so when she started to recognise that, she was able to allay those fears, but still have her own growth. So let's have a look. So my tip for what you need to have happier, healthier outlook on all of your relationships is to be able to take a look at these patterns that are coming up. A lot of these patterns will come from your past, and you'll have evidence over the years that would have gone, and the stories that you tell yourself over the years that will go towards being able to justify where you're feeling. And I think what you need to do is be aware of what those stories are and how you're kind of taking those on board and making them the truth in situations that are arising today. We also need to make sure that we're not using those as a way to justify behaviour, because that just keeps it perpetuating round. And when we have that dark side that pops up, and those times when we're feeling insecure, or when we're feeling frustrated, or we feel that somebody's hurt us, don't run from it, but recognise it when it pops up and look at where that might be, where it might be from a trigger from the past and where it's playing out again today, and where you're allowing it to kind of be part of a relationship today, because some of those patterns may come from previous relationships in the past that you're carrying into relationships that you're in today. So have a look at where that's maybe mirroring itself for you. So my little tip here is to take a look at the situation. If you've got any current situations that are going on with conflict with somebody in your family, with your could be with your partner, or could be with colleagues, have a look at that situation and look at where your needs are being met in that situation. So take a look, say to yourself, okay, what is it that I'm needing from this situation? Which needs are at play here? So is it certainty? Is it uncertainty and variety? Is it significance? Is it love and connection? Is it growth? Is it contribution? Have a look and say, and say to yourself, okay, in this situation, what are my needs that are at work here? Where are they being met, and where are they not being met by this situation? And even in the negative behaviours, look and see where that's helping to meet some of those needs. And then look at where the gaps are, where they're not being met. And then the next step is to take a look at what behaviours are playing out around getting those needs met. Where your dark side is showing up to help you to get them met. And have a look and see, is there a pattern here? And if there is, what is it? And then the next step is to do the same, but for the other person in the situation. If you can, ask them, there's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, look, with what's going on at the moment, what is it that you need? What is it that you're needing from this situation? What are you needing from me? What are you needing to feel is happening for you? But if you can't ask them, just kind of take, use your intuition. It's there for a reason. And I would say that, within this situation, you can certainly trust what your intuition tells you about which one of what of their needs are playing out in this. Do you think are playing out in this situation? Have a look where their needs might be being met, even if it's, again, always look at positive and negative behaviour. Where are their needs being met? Where are they not being met as well? Look at both sides of that. And look at how maybe their dark side might be showing up and popping up, where that, they might be feeling hurt, and so, or they might be feeling disgruntled or frustrated, and see how that might be enabling their dark side to pop up to show up and help them get their needs met. And then when you've looked at that from both sides, from your perspective and from the other person's perspective, finally then for you to do is to look and see if you could both get your needs met. And again, this you could bring them into this conversation, or if not, use your intuition. If you could both get your needs met in this situation, what would you change? What could you do differently to help this? What could you? How could you maybe approach it differently? How could you speak to them? What could you say differently, or how could you say it differently to help them to feel that they're getting their needs met, but also to get your needs met? And just have a look at how that can maybe help to recognise in there where the dark side is kind of popping up and playing out, so that you can switch that around and come at it from helping somebody to meet their needs and seeing things from both sides in that respect. So that's my little tip for today on how to have a happier, healthier outlook on all of your relationships. I really hope it's helped you. If it has, then please do put some comments down for me. Let me just have a look and see whether or not there are any comments over there that I can answer for you. Let's just have a look and see. Go over to my page, see if we've got any comments there. There's nothing there at the moment. I'm aware that this is probably lunchtime And if it looks like this isn't a good time for people as well, then do let me know, because I can always change the time that I do these live streams. So yep, comment afterwards. I'll be keeping an eye on it, and I will certainly answer any comments that you put in the comment box underneath. Please do share it. Please do come over and join me in my It's Time to Be You Facebook group. And if you've got any comments, or you want to talk privately with me about anything that I've said on this live stream or in any of the previous live streams, then please do send me a private message and we can set up some time to talk. And don't forget to subscribe on my page, and that will give you notifications for the next time I'm live. And that will be, let's have a look, next week, next Monday, I'm going to be talking about the mindset shift that helps you to find meaning in all of your relationships. And we're going to be looking again about how that can, how you can be mirrors for one another as well. So it will touch a little bit further on what I've spoken about today. So thank you ever so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.